Today we're going to talk about building dementia-friendly communities and strategies for success. So we will move on and we will define the key terms. Alrighty. So we have dementia, a progressive decline in cognitive function due to physical changes in the brain. Stigma, which we've spoken about previously, is a negative attitude or judgment towards a person or a group based on their characteristics. And what we want to create here today is inclusive communities, communities that are welcoming and supportive of people with dementia. And by understanding the definitions of dementia, stigma, and inclusive communities, we can work together to reduce stigma and create more inclusive communities. A dementia-friendly community is a community that is designed to be inclusive and accessible for individuals with dementia. It involves a range of strategies that promote inclusivity, access, and quality of life for individuals with dementia and their families and the greater community. And in this presentation, we will discuss some research-based strategies for creating dementia-friendly community. So we are going to do away with some of the myths that we see. So dementia is a normal part of aging. Many people believe that dementia is an inevitable part of aging, but this is not always the case. They believe dementia is untreatable. Although there is no cure for dementia, there are treatments and therapies that can help to manage and mitigate the symptoms. People with dementia are unable to live independently. Again, with the right support, many people with dementia can contribute to live independently for many years. So by changing our attitudes towards dementia, we require understanding and the facts, and this will help us to dispel the common misconception. So while doing some research on the topic, we discovered stereotypes and misconceptions are the biggest enemies of understanding. And that's not just for dementia, it's for many other things like, biases that we may have, or stereotypes or labels that we put on people. So in this presentation, we hope to do away with that when it comes to people living well and successfully with dementia. The importance of inclusion. A dementia-friendly community aims to include people living with dementia by removing barriers that exclude them, raising awareness and reducing stigma. Education and outreach can help reduce stigma against dementia and empower the community to be more supportive. Safe and accessible spaces. Public spaces should be designed to help people living with dementia navigate and access services independently. And a dementia-friendly community does require a collaborative effort to promote inclusion, safety, and quality of life for all residents. So when we talk and I see this safe and accessible space, when I did training around dementia-friendly communities, there's a beautiful new rec centre built here in North Vancouver. It's state-of-the-art, Olympic-sized swimming pool. And for us to go and have a look at it, I thought, wow, this place is absolutely amazing. But to my disappointment, when I went to use the washroom, all of the doors were sleek and flat. There were no handles. There was no difference in colors of the floor and the doors. So for somebody living with dementia, with visual impairment, or even mobility issues around, maybe arthritis and hands, this was a huge disappointment to me. But I'm glad to say that the City of North Van took on our observations and change so that when somebody comes to the washroom, there are handles and they are well signposted. So it may seem a very small thing, but looking through the lens of somebody living with any type of disability, this made a huge difference. So that's just my little bit on that. So the benefits of a dementia-friendly community. So for those people, again, with the washroom maybe cut short, increased quality of life. A dementia-friendly community provides a safe and supportive environment for people living with dementia, allowing them to maintain their independence and their quality of life. And also, I would add to that, their dignity. Reduced social isolation. A dementia-friendly community encourages social interaction and reduces the risk of social isolation for people living with dementia. I remember reading one study around isolation, and it said when people are diagnosed with some type of cognitive impairment, they do retreat to home, and it's 6 months or longer before they seek help. So improved access to services. A dementia-friendly community provides access to services and resources that are tailored to the needs of people living with dementia. So it's training our first responders, our cities, our councils, shopkeepers, medical offices, etc., that we can improve the lives of those living with a cognitive impairment, and also taking care of the caregivers by doing so as well. So creating a dementia-friendly community is an important step towards providing an inclusive and supportive environment for people living with dementia, and each one of us can make a difference. What does the evidence say? The evidence shows that reducing dementia stigma and creative inclusive communities can have a positive impact on the lives of those living with dementia and also their caregivers. Research has shown that when people are included in their community, they are more likely to feel accepted and supported. So dementia-friendly communities are a vital part in helping people live well with dementia and remain part of their vibrant community. Too many people affected by dementia feel society fails to understand the condition that they live with and its impact or how they interact with them. That's why people with dementia sometimes feel they need to withdraw from their community as their condition progresses. In fact, over a third of people that live with dementia told us that they have felt lonely. More than a quarter of carers we surveyed said that they felt cut off from society too. So it is not only the person with the diagnosis, but is their carer, their family, and possibly part of their community. People affected by dementia still have an incredible amount to offer the community. And I have seen this over my 15 years of work, both in Ireland and here in Canada. They have a lot to offer the community. If they are appropriately supported, they continue to play and be an active part, and they have a valuable role to play in the community even after their diagnosis. So just as with First Nations, they honor their elders, I think that that is something that we can definitely take part in as well. And remember that your amygdala, which I call your amazing amygdala in the center of your brain, is your emotional memory. And although people may be nonverbal or struggle to find the words, emotionally, they will always be connected to their loved ones, to their community, and to their local coffee shops that serve them. So involve those with point of view and lived experience, which is really important. We're not there. We want to encourage choice for those living with dementia. Why are dementia-friendly communities important? So the following information that we have gathered from Dementia UK applies throughout the world. Who can help make their community dementia-friendly? Well, all of us who are on this call. So everyone in the community has a role to play in building dementia-friendly communities. This includes individuals, businesses, organizations, and as I mentioned before, government agencies. And by working together, we can create inclusive environments that support people living with dementia. Because yes, as this As this building has on the side of it, everyone has a story. And yes, everyone does. So from government to local bookshops, to book clubs, to churches, we all play a part in creating dementia-friendly communities where we will encourage people to feel active, engaged, and valued. People living with dementia have the most important role in any dementia-friendly community, and by sharing their experiences and connecting with others, they ensure that communities keep the needs of people affected by dementia at the heart of everything they do. So let's delve a little bit deeper into a dementia-friendly community. So intentional steps. Communities take intentional steps to become dementia friendly. Supportive environment. The environment supports people with dementia. And by that, we talk about people being trained and understanding, but also the built environment. One example is beautiful artwork along the seafront in West Vancouver. Some of it does not look like a chair. So if you are living with dementia, that chair does not look familiar to you, and therefore you may have needed a rest but are unable to sit down. So that's what we mean when we talk about the built environment, having things look like what they are for their purpose. And inclusion. The community includes people with dementia. It's so important to have the voices of those who are living every day with dementia. So dementia-friendly communities make intentional changes to support and include people with dementia. This, in turn, reduces social isolation. So dementia-friendly communities connect people with dementia to social opportunities and community resources like your local rec centre, your seniors activity centre, a bowling club, any type of club. Men's Shed is another popular one. So it promotes independent. Dementia-friendly features like familiar landmarks, clear signage help people to navigate and participate in their community. So that means good lighting, street lighting at night, even pavements, all of those things that we probably take for granted. So today, when you're out and about or over the coming week, have a look at those things and see how difficult it would be if those signposts were blurred or dirty or inaccessible, or there's road work. Because when people are living with dementia, they tend to follow either straight lines or diagonal lines. And if there's a barrier in the way, that's when problems can arise. So improve quality of life. Dementia-friendly attitudes create welcoming, inclusive environments that support dignity and well-being. And that's not only for people with dementia, but for all of us to live a good and flourishing life. So dementia-friendly communities empower people with dementia to live meaningful lives and remain engaged, as we all should be. The key characteristics of maintaining a dementia-friendly community include: educate community about dementia, organize workshops, awareness campaigns to reduce stigma, ask friends around for a cup of tea, simple things like that. Have a chat at a coffee shop and talk to them about the I'm Still Me project. Make spaces accessible. Ensure buildings and transportation are easy to navigate, and offer training programs. Enhance understanding of dementia and caregiving. Caregivers need all the support that we can offer them, and through education and understanding, that is something that we will improve on throughout this project. So creating supportive and inclusive environments for people with dementia requires education, accessibility, and training. Engage local businesses. So I am from Ireland, and I am so in awe of the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland at the moment. They are creating dementia-friendly communities, and they are also now going into high schools. And another thing that I saw when I was home was that shopkeepers in smaller villages, etc., are now displaying a sticker that says "We are dementia friendly," which means that one person on a shift in that store, in that pharmacy, has dementia awareness training. And how wonderful is that for either a caregiver or a caregiver and their partner going in, to know that some behaviors that we may be embarrassed about are not going to be frowned upon, but you are going to be understood. So I digress. Let's go back to the slides. So engage our local businesses, train staff at local businesses to recognize signs of dementia and provide respectful patient support. TransLink here is another great one. I had a gentleman come out to speak from TransLink. You can now get a lanyard that says, "Please be patient, I'm living with dementia." And you can also get a lanyard with a sticker that says, "Please be patient, I'm supporting someone with dementia." So again, a wonderful initiative by TransLink. So offer supportive services, provide resources like memories cafes, support groups, respite care, and transportation, because transport is so important. And I know if people lose their driving license, it will be wonderful to take TransLink and be able to wear these lanyards proudly and create that awareness on your local buses. So promote social inclusion, organize inclusive, engaging activities that promote social connections and cognitive stimulation. Again, another Irish proverb that I love to use, it says, "It is in the shelter of each other that people live." And that is what we are here to support each other as we go through life. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And Nelson Mandela, what an inspiring figure. That is wonderful. So the goal of the dementia-friendly community is to allow people with dementia to live meaningful and engaged lives within their familiar surroundings while receiving the necessary support and understanding from the community at large. These communities are focused on creating a space where people with dementia can continue to engage, participate, and enjoy a quality of life, despite the challenges that they may face with their condition and their diagnosis of dementia. So creating environments that support and include individuals living with dementia is so important. And education is the most powerful weapon, as the slide says, and as Nelson Mandela said. Educate the community about dementia to reduce stigmatization and increase understanding. Organize our talks and our public workshops, which we talked about. But as I said, it's simpler than that. It may well be asking someone around for a cup of tea, meeting at a local coffee shop, meeting at your local rec or seniors activity centre, and gathering people together and letting them know about the I'm Still Me project. And together we will create a ripple effect. So what are some support services for those living with dementia? So as we said already, recreation and leisure activities, and activities that are organised that are suitable for people living with dementia, offering cognitive stimulation, physical exercise, and social interaction. And I must say, I'm very proud of a program that I wrote for the Seniors Activity Centre in West Vancouver called Daybreak. So this is a wonderful program that includes people living with dementia and activities. So it's working with abilities and not disabilities. So memory cafes. So organize community spaces for social gatherings that provide a welcoming and understanding environment for individuals with dementia. And if any of you are interested, I do run Alzheimer's cafes, Northwest Vancouver and in downtown Vancouver, and they will be coming back in September. It's a fully volunteer organization. And I do have some wonderful supports from UBC Idea Lab and a dear friend of mine, Mario, who lives with Alzheimer's, and also Jim Mann. So you can certainly look them up on YouTube for videos, but they are two inspirational men that I'm happy to call friends. Support groups. Facilitate support groups and meetings for individuals with dementia and their care partners to share experiences and find mutual support. So again, search out support groups in your local area, particularly for caregivers. It's nice to be able to go to a space that's non-judgmental, where if you've had a bad day, you can say you've had a bad day. You can shout, cry, scream. I have a caregiver support group here of 10 women for the last 5 years. It's a safe space, and nothing is taboo. So it is great to be able to come in and say you're having a hard day, or you feel like leaving and running away, and that's okay too. But with the support of others in your situation, it can be a great resource. So respite care. So coordinate respite care services to provide care partners with breaks from caregiving responsibility. Nobody is expecting you to be Superman or Superwoman. You have to be kind to yourself, and to be able to care for others, you have to care for yourself. So you should be entitled to 30 days of respite per year for your loved one. So it's important to engage the services of a case manager from your health region, where you can get support in organizing maybe a long weekend, or a few days here and there, or a week where you can go and just look after yourself. So transportation services offer accessible transportation options tailored to the needs of individuals with dementia. So again, if you haven't heard, Handy Dart is a wonderful resource. It's the same price as a bus ticket, but it's a door-to-door service. This you can sign up for. Handy Dart, the application is available online, signed off by your general practitioner. The only thing is to be a little bit patient, because if you want to be somewhere, you have to allow a half an hour window. So it is a little bit about exercising patience. I would always say book it a half an hour before the time in order to get to your appointments on time. There's also a thing called Taxi Savers, where you can buy booklets which help you to get a reduced cost taxi fares, say to and from appointments. And also TransLink, as I say, inquire about wearing the lanyard and taking your local bus service. Activity programs. Develop activity programs that provide cognitive stimulation and social engagement for individuals with dementia. So again, just because we have a diagnosis of a cognitive impairment, it doesn't mean that we stop living and that we isolate ourselves in our homes. We can still make meaningful relationships, have fun. And, life is about having fun and stepping back from the worries of everyday life. So engaging in good activity programs can really help to stimulate new connections within the brain, although there's no cure for dementia. But creating new connections and stimuli is always good. In fact, it's good for all of us. So care partner education. Provide care partners with educational resources and training on dementia. And again, good for all of you guys who are care partners. It's easy to become, tired, aggravated, sometimes angry. So it's knowing to be able to connect and not correct your care partner, because the person you're caring for, because really you have to live their reality, and you connect and don't correct, because the only person's blood pressure that's going up is your own, and that's not good for you. So it's learning these tools and how to communicate, and also how to keep yourself safe your partner becomes angry with you. And always use the rule where you put your arm out, so you should be arm distance apart. But there are so many tips and tricks to make days easier if behavior is becoming an issue. So we have Key features here. So public education and awareness. Educate the public about dementia to reduce stigma and encourage an early diagnosis. Early diagnosis is key. So if we notice something, a lot of us will say, oh, I'll be okay. Oh, it's just a blip. I'll be all right. But through education and awareness, getting that earlier diagnosis, and having drugs, for example, like Aricept, that's been around for a while. Studies will show that Aricept will buy you an additional kind of 18 months where you will stay, plateaued. It will do with having to get extra care in. But that's only key with that will only work with an early diagnosis. So the longer we leave it, unfortunately, medications won't be as helpful as they could have been. So again, it's doing away with that stigma around, cognitive impairment and encouraging people to go when they think that something is amiss. So public education, reduce stigma and encourage early diagnosis. Dementia-friendly businesses train staff like banks, shops and restaurants, support so that they can support customers. And again, a great ally of mine was RBC Bank in West Vancouver. Supporting a client, they knew to ring, to make a phone call to say, we have somebody here. They're coming every day to either withdraw money or, looking for lost money. So again, it's training that staff to be aware that there was some sort of cognitive impairment. And then in that way, we were able to step in and support. So again, talk to your local banks if you have a loved one living with memory loss and explain and encourage them to do some staff training. So safe public spaces, parks, streets, public transit, make them accessible for people living with dementia. And we have talked a little bit about that too. So, it doesn't mean that you get a diagnosis of dementia and you can't go to your local park, but making them safe, free of clutter, free of objects in the way. Again, talk to your local city or district. So a dementia-friendly community has an inclusive social environment that supports people living with dementia, and it enables them to carry on living meaningful lives. So the day you get a diagnosis, yes, your world does change and you have to sit with that for a while. It affects you, your family, extended family, community, long-standing friendships, but take time to sit with it. It's hard. It's almost like when we talk about the grief process, there will be denial. They've made a mistake. The doctor's not right. They don't know what they're talking about. And also remember that there are other things that can manifest themselves, that look like dementia. If you have a chronic urinary tract infection, if you have a virus, a fever, an undiagnosed illness. So, be kind to yourself, take it easy, sit with the diagnosis when it's confirmed, but then do come out and look for help and support. So physical modifications can create a more dementia-friendly environment, allowing individuals to remain independent and safe. So that's where we talked about the built environment. So this is where materials are designed to be easily understandable for people with varying levels of cognitive decline. So promote dementia-friendly businesses. Encourage businesses to train staff, adapt their services. That might be down to lighting. That might be down to, we call it nosing on the end of the stairs. You might see it now and you'll watch out for it. You might see a yellow line along the stairs. That's to support people with low vision, with disability, but it also is very helpful for those living with dementia. So again, keep an eye out for these kind of things. Grab and handrails at certain heights, a bench or a chair there that might be halfway along a walk. So these are all the built environments. So yeah, I'd encourage you to find 3 positive things in the built environment as you go about the rest of your week. So creating welcoming environments for people with dementia. Foster community collaboration with healthcare, government, and community groups to ensure comprehensive dementia support. So whether it's Fraser Health, Vancouver Coastal Health, your local city hall where you go to pay your property taxes. Talk to them if you feel comfortable, or encourage someone on your behalf to advocate for you at these local government offices for training to take place for staff to support. There was one gentleman who used to go and try to pay his dog license, but if he went once a week, he went 3 times a week, and the staff were becoming frustrated. But what I said to them was, isn't it much easier to take his information, take his card, work away on the computer and say, thank you very much, Mr. Jones, that's all done, have a wonderful day. So rather than creating, an environment of, oh God, here he comes again, take that 2 or 3 minutes, do a mock transaction and thank Mr. Jones for coming, and how much easier and how much better Mr. Jones felt walking away knowing that he'd paid for his dog license. So that's just one example. So encourage social inclusion, integrate people with dementia into community events and activities to promote intergenerational interactions. So again, Canada is such a big country, and I know that maybe we have grandchildren or sons or daughters in different provinces, but there are other ways to promote intergenerational. I know that a lot of the community centres have childcare, they have schools coming in, they have projects. So why not work together? Elders have so much information and knowledge when it comes to reusing. Elders were recycling long before it became the buzzword to recycle. So sitting together, those interactions, I've seen it where a play group would come to a seniors home I worked in, and you could feel the energy and the charge. It was like recharging a battery, and the joy that it brought and stayed with the seniors after they left, and also for the children to see seniors, because as I say, maybe grandparents in different provinces, etc. So intergenerational programs have proven to be fantastic. It's not just a swapping of information from younger children telling seniors what to do. Seniors have so much more to offer. So that's a wonderful thing to take up. So in doing all of these things, we reduce stigma. We foster understanding and empathy through community events and educational programs. So that empathy piece is so important. It does away with biases, it does away with stigma, and it does away with people being frustrated with somebody who seems to be, not moving fast enough, not, holding up the line. So creating empathy from 0 to 100 is so important. So around the built environment, accessible information, use clear language, large font, and make sure those signs are cleaned regularly, and visual aids in communication. I wear hearing aids, so a hearing loop for me is fantastic when I'm in a crowded situation. So yes, things like that. And more importantly is to support our care partners. So that respite care, your 30 days over the year, don't feel guilty about using it. You need time to look after yourself, be kind to yourself, and not feel guilty about taking time for yourself, even if it's an overnight, to just go and sit in nature, or, another trip, a short trip, a lovely trip to Bowen Island and sit out and have your lunch there. Is another nice inexpensive day trip as a foot passenger, which I really like to do. So empowerment and choice. So let's move on to this. So key features. Walkable neighborhoods, streets designed for pedestrians with benches, again, benches that are recognizable. I love art, you know, in the neighborhood. It's beautiful to see some really nice things. We have the Hope Center here beside me. They have a beautiful sculpture. But again, we need something that's recognizable. So those benches, shelters if it's raining, curb cuts and traffic signals, you know, that are also audible as well as visible. Accessible public transport, buses and trains with priority seating, and I know I do see them, clear signage and announcements that are understandable for those with cognitive decline. So again, priority seating, and again through education. I know I haven't been on a bus in a long time, but people need to honor our elders, our seniors getting on the buses and get up from those seats that are designated. And that's through education that we will create this awareness. So safe public spaces, well-lit parks and recreation areas for social activities and exercise. So while we still have the good weather, you know, maybe preparing a couple of sandwiches, a couple of bottles of water and some fruit, and sitting out in the lovely parks that we have all around BC. So dementia-friendly communities enable people with cognitive decline to feel included and engaged in everyday activities. You know, none of us want to feel different. None of us want to feel that we can't partake. So as well as people with dementia, I would also advocate for people with disabilities. And a lot of this fits the bill as well, what we're talking about today. So engage community members, involve residents, businesses, schools in discussing dementia-friendly initiatives. And again, I think it's great that we get into, you know, elementary schools and high schools, you know, with people living longer. We do see more cases. It's not Alzheimer's or dementia is not a normal part of aging. In fact, the figures show that it is 95% sporadic. So if you've had a mother or a father or a sibling with a dementia diagnosis, it does not necessarily mean that you will get dementia. 95% sporadic, so that is huge. There is only 1% with a familial gene, and that's called EPOA4 gene, which you can be tested for. And that's normally seen when you have a diagnosis of early onset. So that's before the age of 65. So that's kind of an important stat, because I had some family members with dementia, and of course you do worry and you think, oh, am I going to get it? But always remember 95% sporadic, so that's important. So we engage with our communities, and I think it's important to get into the younger ages so that there isn't that fear and stigma and bias against people. Collaborate with healthcare professionals, partner with providers, try and have a good relationship with your social worker and your gerontologist and your own family doctor, so that you can ensure effective initiatives and that they're learning also when somebody you care for is living with a diagnosis of dementia. Because remember, we don't all know everything. We're all still learning. So we can also support the medical staff. And sometimes it's good to journal and see changes. I know we talk about sundowning in the afternoon when people get tired. If any of us have had children, we'll remember that, those afternoons when they were cranky, but you try to keep them awake so you'd get a good night's sleep. So again, journaling is good, and noticing different things, because you will help to support somebody else on that journey. So offer sessions to raise awareness and teach interaction strategies. So again, we talked about that, connecting, not correcting, living their reality, protecting yourself if there are outbursts, and knowing what to do when that happens. Provide resources, support groups, and respite care. And I really do encourage you to take of those 30 days that you are entitled to. So building dementia-friendly communities requires a lot of collaboration, and sometimes it can be exhausting, and sometimes you just need to sit at home for a day and gather your strength and regroup, and that's okay too. You don't need to berate yourself because you're not Superwoman or Superman. So train medical professionals. So provide training to doctors, nurses, and other medical staff on communicating effectively with people living with dementia. And I have talked to my own doctor about this. And really, she said, you know, all those years ago when she trained, there wasn't much emphasis on delivering a diagnosis of dementia or really having a deeper understanding. So again, if you journal, take notes, notice your observations, do share that with your doctor, because doctors are open to learning, and that is important for all of us. So educate the public, hold community events and programs. So in your local rec centre, maybe get together and see if you can get a care partner group together. So you can improve that education piece. And modify this again is the built environment, the public areas, like, because libraries are a great place where people can gather in safety. It's local, it's safe, it's warm in the winter if you're living alone. I know in West Van, people used to come to the senior activity centre and just sit by the fire. They didn't take part in any programs, and that was fine. It was great to see that they felt like it was a home away from home. And a lot of time, your local library is like that. So library staff are a huge part of the community, and a good place for training to take place. Grocery stores, coming in, your cashier knowing your name, keeping an eye out for you, and maybe noticing change in your behavior, but always making that connection. And remember, we talked about that amazing amygdala. So that emotional connection to your cashier or your local librarian will never be lost, because the fact is you can never lose all of your memory. Again, we talked about clear signs, quiet spaces, because overstimulation, you know, in early to mid stage, a lot of noise when your brain is not firing. It's almost like when you put the plug in for the kettle, but there's some corrosion. And when the places are noisy, it's very difficult. And that's when you can see somebody reacting maybe a little bit irrationally. So quiet spaces. So again, that's why that library or that quiet space in your recreation center is so important. And then helpful trained staff that are educated or through yourselves are told that your loved one is living with dementia. So please be patient. I'm a care partner. My wife, husband, my aunt, uncle are living with dementia, and I need your support. And it encourages people to go ahead and maybe Google stuff and try to understand a little bit better. So outdoor spaces with fences or boundaries where people with dementia can wander safely. I know there's a small place in Australia. They have a beautiful dementia-friendly garden, and again, it's got all those scented buds, but again, they're safe to eat, safe to pick, safe to touch. So they very thoughtfully put this beautiful garden together, and it's got low fencing, so it doesn't feel like you're hemmed in. But yeah, I would love to see more of those around BC for sure. Support groups, we've talked about that. Talk about your experiences, be open and honest. You know, I've had people come into my caregiver group going, I'm packing up, I'm leaving. And within that hour and a half, you know, we might have had tears, but at the end, you know, with that support of each other, they've gone off and can carry on, and we see each other the following week, and things have changed, or somebody may have journaled something and noticed something that helps them. So sharing things that work. They may not work for everybody, but sharing what we have seen, sharing a new resource that we found can fill someone with hope, and be able to carry on in that difficult caregiving journey. So you yourselves again organize together, and intergenerational activities I really do love. I've seen them work so well. It's like an empty battery going on a recharge and just filling up, and that lasts more than that day. May not be able to say why, may not be able to verbalize, but you'll see someone with a smile on their face, and what a wonderful feeling that is for it to last. Families come in to visit and say, mom or dad, oh my God, they were just in really good form today. And I would be able to share with them that the kids had been in, and we had a little bit of silliness, we tossed balloons, but it fills up everybody, and those children have also been able to appreciate elders when they may not have their grandparents living close by. So different ages. We did reading where the kids would come. They were grade 1 and 2, and they would read their book. And then we moved on to cedars. So we had readers and cedars, and we built a small garden in the back of the care home I worked in, and the joy of harvesting those first herbs and what they were going to make, etc. So small things, big changes. So we can design websites and online platforms. So websites and digital platforms should be designed with cognitive impairments in mind to improve accessibility for people with dementia. So again, programs that say like talking books, large print. You can also get a magnifier where if somebody has cognitive visual impairment, because as the disease progresses, for some people at the back of here, we have the occipital lobe, and this is what's affecting the information going in and out, spatial awareness, etc. So again, these magnifying screens that you can put on. So lots of different things like that. Also, when we have the occipital lobe is struggling and we can't see things, I would recommend, and again, I've seen it work, we call it Fiesta wear. So if somebody's struggling to locate the mug of tea, get it in a bright red, orange, or bright yellow. So I always think of a Mexican fiesta. So in those kind of colors, again, if dinner is being spilt on their lap or down their shirt, then a red plate, I know you can get them at the dollar store, but a red plate, brightly colored cutlery, and you will find that the intake of food will improve. So it's just small things like that, that don't have to be expensive. Work with local policymakers to make changes like improving public transport that support dementia-friendly communities, and regularly assess dementia-friendly initiatives and make changes based on feedback to meet evolving needs. So again, with sciences, with everything else, there's so many improvements, medication management, but there's also non-pharmacological, whether that is a hand massage, lavender oil, a scent to create a reminiscing moment. Maybe if you travel to the beach and stuff, then you get some pieces like sunglasses, a beach towel, all of these things just to reminisce. And also picture books, get out those old photos, get the albums out and sit for an afternoon. Because I know when I go home to mom, we have all the pictures at home, and we sit in the front room, and my sisters and I and my mom, and we laugh and reminisce about picnics in the rain and things like that. So old pictures, old gadgets and devices like mincers that you would attach to the table, other old appliances. It just brings back a great memory. So there's some other things that you could do as well. So we're going to advocate for accessible transportation, and TransLink are really doing their best. Provide accessible public transport and specialized transport. So look at Handy Dart, door-to-door service for the same price as a bus service. Look at taxi savers, where it's a reduced rate for the taxi. Educate TransLink, and I know they are doing that, or other, you know, even your taxi driver or whoever else. And walkability. So if you look up UBC Idea Lab, you will see that they were supporting a program around walkability to promote independence for those living with cognitive decline. So inclusive community, physical and social environment to promote inclusion for those, increase that community awareness, and again, business outreach, which we've spoken about already. Designing public spaces and buildings to be accessible and a welcoming place for all, not just those with dementia, but for all, to make them inclusive. We have such, I like to call it a smorgasbord. We have people from all over the world living in Canada. So again, having those different languages to create that inclusive feeling so that you can engage, whether it's having somebody to speak Farsi, Mandarin, Cantonese, etc. Moving from another country is a brave move. And when English isn't your first language and you are living with somebody with cognitive impairment, we need to be inclusive. And that, I believe, is what brought me to Canada and what it's all about. So provide adequate public transport, and again, resources. If you find resources, please share them with us, share them with your friends, your family, and your community at large. And here's something that is really good. Volunteering. I know that I saw in a paper that volunteering adds 4 years to your life. So it's that feeling of giving back. There's no money can pay for that. So volunteering is huge. Learn about dementia, which is what you are doing, and you are going to support others. And I do call you dementia champions, and I really do mean that. Advocate politically. So when an election is coming up or someone's knocking at your door looking for your vote, ask them, what are they going to do for you as a caregiver? What are you going to do? We have such a shortage of beds. We haven't got enough long-term care facilities, trained staff. When you go into a long-term care facility and you have care workers who are working hard, their time is under demand, but give them the ability to have some dementia-friendly training. So, get the buy-in, because it's your loved one that's going to be there. And frazzled staff who don't understand what's going on is no good for you or for your loved one. Be a supportive friend or family member. And if you know someone living with dementia, reach out and see how you can help meet their needs. And it doesn't mean, a huge commitment. A simple thing like making a cottage pie, making a stew in the winter, buying them a nice loaf of bread and leaving it on their doorstep, that will fill their hearts and know that they're not forgotten about. Because what happens a lot when people, and I've seen and heard it over the years, people are diagnosed, and if there's a few family members, you find 1 or 2 will come, and then a family member may say, well, I don't want to come, my dad doesn't remember me. What's the point? So again, it's around education, understanding and not being judgmental of that family member, and knowing that maybe fear is keeping them away. Because when we don't understand something, maybe sometimes it's easy to bury our head in the sand and think, well, I don't want to deal with that. So don't be judgmental. And I am guilty of that in the past, thinking, this is your mom, this is your dad, you've got to come. And over the years, I've learned they were terrified. They didn't understand. They didn't like the changes that they saw. But I always go back to the amazing amygdala and the emotional connection that is never, never lost. So advise city planners, and this is really important, that safe spaces are safe and accessible, that benches look like benches. I know I keep saying that, but that is so important. And get together, arrange a cup of coffee, phone a friend after this today and say, hey, I've got some information I think might be of interest to you, or, now maybe is a good time to talk about advanced care planning. So be proactive rather than reactive. Don't wait for that accident to happen and not have some sort of a loose plan in place. It's okay. You think of something, have a scrappy notebook that you write something down in that you can refer back to later. Yeah, simple things like that. I know I talked to my mom over the weekend and she said, oh, something's happened with the roof. She's 86. She lives at home on her own. My sisters are close by in Dublin, but something happened. The roof was leaking. Her telephone after a storm went out. And she goes, I just can't do it anymore. And I said to her, Mom, a piece of advice. I said, get a notebook. Write down the things that need to be done. Prioritize if you have to. And then go through them one by one, because what happens is when we're overwhelmed is we become completely paralyzed and we end up doing nothing. And so it was great to talk to her yesterday and say, well, I've done this. I said, did you put a smiley face? She goes, no, I just put a tick. But I knew that she felt better because she had written her list and she was starting to tick it off. So now she was back in action mode. So again, that's what I love to do. Share stories, share experiences of individuals with dementia to create empathy. Teach students about dementia in schools to increase understanding. And I think there is a wonderful book. It's a young man in England, and he had put up a fundraiser on LinkedIn. And I had sent him some money, as it did a lot of people. I didn't send him a lot of money, but he has a wonderful book called My Grandma Has Dementia, and it's available on Amazon. It is beautifully, it was done because his grandmother was living with dementia. So it's a depiction of her, and it's explaining to children what dementia is and how it affects the person, but that your grandmother is still your grandmother. So again, a really lovely book for younger children if you're trying to explain the changes in a grandparent. So teaching students about dementia, I think, from the ground up is so important. Advocate for research, care services, and community funding. You may have to ask somebody else to do this, because I know a lot of the time care partners are so exhausted trying to keep a case manager, trying to get involved with the local health authority. So maybe ask for other people, family members or friends, to advocate on your behalf. Collaborate with others to share ideas and initiatives. Again, that cup of coffee, that cup of tea around a kitchen table or a local community centre. And lead by example. So model inclusive behavior in interacting with individuals with dementia. And that's not always easy to do if you're a child care partner, and that's okay too, but always lead by example. Wherever I go, when I go out for appointments, I wear the forget-me-not flower, and it's great to have younger people in the store say, well, what's this, what's that about? So it might get you 2 or 3 minutes of a teaching moment. I know in soft mock I had a girl and she asked me about the flower, and then she told me, her grandmother had memory loss, and I ended up sharing resources with her. So it's just those small examples and taking a few minutes to share the knowledge and the resources that you've picked up from these 9 weeks of interactive and teachable moments. So there is examples of communities for destigmatization. So the Dementia Village in Langley, I don't know where that is. Again, they are open to you phoning them and having a look around. So it's a purpose-built village designed, and it does feel like a normal community, although I've only seen the pictures, but I know they have chickens and I'm excited to go for a visit. But there are lots of safety features. They've got the small farm animals, they've got the stores, they've got the hairdresser. So again, you are living in a built environment that promotes your independence and choices throughout your day. Dementia-friendly communities in Minnesota, a program that has trained over 100,000 people and organizations to better support individuals with dementia. and dementia-friendly rural communities, develop strategies to support individuals with dementia living in rural areas. So again, a great example of communities coming together in rural communities. And dementia-friendly Tokyo initiative implemented strategies to make Tokyo more dementia-friendly, including training and public spaces. So it can also be urban, so rural, urban, Minnesota, Dementia Village in Langley are all places to have a look at. You can Google them all online. So here is Dementia Friendly Canada. It's a partnership between the Alzheimer's Society of Canada, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario. It is intended to foster the creation of dementia-friendly communities across the country. And a dementia-friendly community is a place where people living well with dementia, their families and care partners feel included and supported. While creating dementia-friendly communities, individuals and organizations should focus on both the physical and social environments to ensure that they are fully accessible. So again, think of the built environment. Go out and have a look and see if you can spot 3 things that you would change or 3 things that you would applaud during your week. The Dementia Friendly Canada project provides educational opportunities for the general public and professionals. So remember to support your doctor and those that you meet, whether you're journaling or making notes, bringing things to their attention, because we are all learning. So working within the community to mobilize them to champion dementia-friendly principles wherever you go. And here are the resources and references that Kim kindly used for today's presentation. And all of this, I believe, will be available online. That brings us to the end of week 9. Thank you for your patience. I haven't done this in many years, so I appreciate. I hope that something today has sparked you. Go out, have a look at the built environment. If there are changes to be made, take some notes and journal some things, and educate others as you go on as dementia champions. And I wish you best for the rest of the week. Thank you very much for coming today.